Here's the truth about my adventures that I never tell you about, and that's about getting cell service. Have you ever been so completely far off the grid that if something went completely wrong and no one knew about it? Well, that is exactly what happened to me. Not once, but twice. And it's safe to say, after those experiences, I knew that something had to change. This is the HiBoost Travel 3.0 ExplorerX Cell Phone Booster. I'm Eddie, welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you already subscribed, welcome back. Let's dive right in and get this guy unboxed. While I'm unboxing this, I do have a question for you guys. Do you prefer no more unboxing and just get straight to the product? Or do you guys like it when I do the unboxing so you guys will see exactly what comes in the box? So this, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much everything you see that comes inside the box. It doesn't have a lot of parts to it, so that means the install should be relatively easy. First thing is first, I am going to start by setting up the outside omnidirectional antenna, get this guy set up, and then we'll find a location to place this along with the folding mount bracket. But let's get this omnidirectional antenna set up. If you guys take a closer look, it does have a threaded section here. So we have to feed this cable down the extension rod right over here. So we're gonna take off this cap here. You don't need that. Feed this right on through. All right, and then we're gonna grab our extension adapter, which is this guy right over here. And then we'll thread this back on. And the spring will just attach on the very bottom of the base right here. Careful not to lose this washer, because I'm pretty sure that's important. And again, just hand tight should be snug enough. And then the last piece, we'll do this later, is gonna be the folding mount bracket, which this will just screw right into in this section here. We'll configure that once we get back up to the roof rack. Our antenna is set up to go. We're gonna find a home for the control box, the inside antenna, and also routing the cable through the cabin and then back up to the roof and back to where this guy gets hooked up to. So coming over to the roof rack, I think I wanna keep the antenna somewhere along the lines of over here towards the rack, because this is gonna be the tallest point of the back of the vehicle. So when I prop up the omnidirectional antenna, it'll sit up at its highest point so I can get the best cell service. Let's get this all set up. I do have some nuts here. What I plan to do is use this as a spacer right back over here towards the folding mount, because it doesn't fit flush all the way through because of my roof rack. So I'm gonna use these nuts to kind of use them as a spacer like I mentioned earlier. I'm gonna guide the bolt on through and place my nut as the spacer right there. Grab the rest of these guys along with our spacers, insert them in, and then I'm gonna start guiding this right on through. And then once I do have that set up, I can then start putting in the lock washer and then the nut. Let's see how this works. Down and then up. Pretty cool, right? It does have some play because of the folding bracket here, but for the most part, yeah, it's on. Our spring is here. You guys can see how it's springing right over here. This is a little bit of a take here, but this is cool. Everything works the way it should. We're gonna get this wire all set up, and I'm gonna use I usually included zip ties to run the wires across the roof rails, and then eventually back into the cabin, and then back into the cabin, we'll hook it up to the control box and hook up the power to turn this on. So now that we have our antenna fully hooked up and ready to go, we're now gonna make our connections. So what I'm gonna need is rubbing alcohol, a cleaning rag, my dikes, some zip ties, and some double side tape mounts. So that's all you're gonna basically need to get this done, because I'm gonna adhere these guys here along the rail just like so. But before I do that, I wanna make sure that the surface is nice and cleaned. It's not gonna be perfect, and that's not the point, but we're gonna clean all the way through and on out, so that way the double side tape has a nice surface to adhere to. I'm gonna run this cable under the crossbars through the sides and back down to the windshield. It might be hard for you guys to see, but everything is all organized, zip tied, and ready to go. So moving along down the wind fairing up here, here's the cable, right? I'm gonna tuck this into my wire hider, which is this guy right here. So I'm gonna put that wire in this, wire hider, feed it along down into the engine bay, and there should be a grommet back over here towards the firewall. I'll feed that same cable through the firewall and then back into the cabin. So I am going to have to remove this piece of the cowl trim piece here. So I have to just basically just pop it right off because we're going to feed the wire right underneath this. So then of course, once you have this removed, you can now run the wire right back here. So there's that. I'm gonna put this, when you're done with that, you can just put this piece right back into its spot. Next up, we're gonna remove this trim piece from the engine bay here. We don't need this. They're just held on by some push tabs. That comes right off. And then once you have that, we're gonna notice right down over here is the grommet through the firewall. This big old round grommet right here. This hose is blocking the way, but if you guys can just kind of see it right past through that, here's that ribbed hose right here, and here's the grommet just sitting right back here against the firewall. This next step, we do have to remove the floor liners here and also remove this piece right up here to gain access to the firewall, which is right behind this. All right, that's out. We can just simply pull this right down. So right between the fan motor and also this bracket here, this big old bundle of wires that's feeding through that firewall. I had a little bit of struggle trying to snake the zip tie through this firewall. So what I did was I shoved one of my long flathead screwdrivers through the firewall, which you guys can see here. And then that same screwdriver that I pushed on through, it's right there if you guys can see it. But all right, see? So check that out, guys. There's a zip tie. Nice. And just like what we did with the screwdriver, we're gonna do the exact same thing to the cable. All right, so I was able to kind of tease it back into the firewall and I felt it got on through. So here it is. Here's the rest of that. And we're good to go. Now that we have our cable through, the next step is I'm going to remove these trim panels here. So what you wanna do is just put this beneath here, and you can already see that unclips right out from its spot. I just found out just now there's a wire connection here. So we just gotta unplug it from this spot. There we go. And now we can take out this trim piece. And then this kick panel here, there's a kind of a screw back over here. There's 3 little holes in there. Just feed it in there, apply some pressure and just twist. And there you go. And now we can take off the panel. So with the panels removed, I can now bring this and just guide it through this section here. Real quick on the box, if you guys take a look, there's an outdoor connection with the USB, and on the other side, and also with the DCN for the power plug. So you can't really mess this up. It's that easy. Our outdoor antenna means we're gonna make our outdoor connection. We can start making our connection with this one, and now we're done. I think I'm going to place the antenna right under this trim panel here, because I believe looking through the manual, it states that you have to have the antennas, both of them, the outdoor and the indoor antenna, separated. So looking at the diagram, I can take a look and see that they have to be pretty spaced out. Working on the indoor antenna, let's take off that cover, screw back on this coax section here, and then before I start putting everything away, we're gonna make our connection to the power supply. Okay, so there's that. And now we can put this underneath the passenger seat. Both our wires, the outdoor antenna and the indoor antenna, are both hooked up right across down over here towards the the body, and then also came right back up and tucked underneath the seat. Went ahead and put the seat all the way forward, so if we come back and take a look, you guys can see exactly where the HiBoost controller is. So the good thing is we had enough cable length for the location to put the control box for the outdoor antenna, which is great. Our control box is beneath the seat over here, and then the indoor antenna, I ran the cable through over here, and I just basically used my pry tool and just pushed the wire right back over side, right back inside of here, ran this up and over the trim here, and this is where I'm going to place it. Now I may move this down the line, and hopefully where I've placed it, it'll work well with the outdoor antenna on the roof rack. This is the last part and bit of the install here. Here's our power supply. We're gonna remove my current charger here from my phone. I'll put that to the side, and then now we can hook up this guy directly into its spot. All right, so we're done. So the HiBoost Travel 3.0 Explorer is fully installed in the GX460. The next test is, let's see how the HiBoost Travel 3.0 Explorer, let's see how this thing performs and how it's going to boost my cell phone coverage. Okay, I don't want to forget to not put this down when I'm done with the testing, so I don't know, remind me somehow. We're all set up. My first test is going to be without the HiBoost 3.0. I'm going to use an app called Speed Test, and we're going to use that to kind of gauge how things are in terms of internet speed. So I'm going to go into my speed test and click on the app here, and you'll see it up on the left hand side, well, to your right of the screen. So we're set to go. I'm going to click on go, and we'll see how fast the speeds are. I have Verizon as my carrier, so we'll see how fast your speeds are in my area. So I'm going to click on go, and it's connecting. And let's see. All right, so 40, I saw 48, 45 megabits per second. Not too bad. So 48.8 megabits per second for download speeds. And 5.02 megabits per second for the upload speed. So let's now turn on the HiBoost 3.0 and see if it'll beat this score. Okay, so that was a test without the HiBoost 3.0 being turned on. I turned my GX back on. Now we're gonna test it with the HiBoost 3.0 now turned on. Everything's already turned on over here. I'm gonna go into the speed test app, and now we're gonna test it and see and compare it to without the HiBoost turned on. Whoa. You guys see what I'm seeing here? That's pretty freaking insane. 186 megabits per second for download speeds. Upload speed 7.14 megabits per second. Wow, I don't know what to say, guys. You guys saw what it was before without the HiBoost on, and with the HiBoost being turned on, and how that dramatically changed our download speeds. I mean, the results, they speak for themselves. That was a big change. The HiBoost 3.0 boosted my cell phone signal, and you guys saw it right here firsthand. Now look, you guys can take a look. Right there. The proof is in the pudding. Now obviously we're within cell towers of the area, and so the HiBoost was able to receive that signal from the cell towers and be able to amplify and boost that signal. So you know what's going to make this more interesting? We got to go up to the mountains. So let's go and take a drive. The only way that we know if the HiBoost is going to work for us, and this may or may not work for us, but we're going to give us a full test because we're not back at home no more. And yes, if you've already guessed it by the background, we are here up in the mountains. So obviously I come here all the time, and when I do, I have little to really just no service at all. So let me show you guys that. So take a look here. If you guys take a look, I have no cell service. It just says SOS. So in this scenario, I can't make any calls, I can't text at all, no social media, just basically nothing. So if I wanted to get help or reach out for help, guess what I have to do? Got to get back into my car and drive to the nearest spot that I can find any kind of cell service I can make any kind of calls or make a text. But in the event where if I have car problems, any issues, and guess what, I have no cell service, I'm going nowhere. Let's go ahead and give this a test and see if this actually works out in the middle of the mountains. So obviously, first step is bring up the omnidirectional antenna, get that situated, plug in the HiBoost power, and once we have that, turn it back on to activate it. Before we go into checking on the cell phone signal, I do want to inform you guys that we are in dense forest. If we take a look up, I am surrounded by trees. So this may be a factor in terms of getting any kind of services. Now maybe if I was in an area where it's more wide open, I might get some cell service, but either ways, this is just a test to see if this works. It may or may not work, but let's find out because I am just as eager as you guys are to see if this actually works. Our antenna is properly popped up. We're good to go there. Power supply is already back into the car. We already have that. So now let's see if I have any kind of cell phone service. My phone's already here. Now keep in mind, this is ground zero of where I always come out to. Dense forest, high up above in the mountains. And so will this give us any cell service or is it gonna give us nothing? Well, the proof is in the pudding. And there you have it, folks. We have no cell service. I don't know if it's because I am surrounded by trees or I'm just too high up in elevation. I believe I'm around 6,000 to 7,000 above elevation. So that might be a factor, but this just tells you and tells me that the HiBoost does not work in this type of environment. Before you guys start chewing me out, the power is on. As you guys can see, it's indicated by that blue glowing light that's in the power cord itself. And then back over here is where I have the control box, and it is activated and turned on. So after testing some real-time testing with the HiBoost 3.0 Travel Explorer, here's where I stand. This is not going to be for everyone. If you're going to be in the middle of nowhere without no cell phone coverage, cell towers, this is not going to create some magical signal for you. That's just not what a cell phone booster is designed to do. But through my testing, when I was within range and there was like a weak cell phone signal, the HiBoost 3.0 Travel Explorer did boost that signal. It took that existing signal and gave it a noticeable boost. So whether you liked what you saw in the video or maybe you decided this wasn't for you, hopefully my testing gave you guys a better idea of what to realistically expect from this. For me personally, if I go into areas where there's weak cell phone signals, this is where the HiBoost 3.0 is going to come into play. I can prop that antenna back up, turn it back on, and boost my signal when I need to connect with friends and family. I can see the value in this when I definitely need it. I think of it as a tool, and for that reason, it deserves a place in my GX460. Big thank you to HiBoost for allowing me the opportunity to give this real test. If you found this to be informative, follow the channel. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace out, guys.